Welcome everybody. This is Sunday Night Setups, but it's really Monday, so don't tell anybody. It is an exchange holiday here on the markets. This is Joseph Cusick here for Sunday Night Setups here at MarketStream.live, where securities are offered by Money Block. I just wanted to jump on today and give you some setups for this week. Take a look at the major indices, as well as some stocks that we want to keep an eye on going into the pre-markets tomorrow and after the close. After tomorrow's closing bell here at MarketStream.live. And the futures were actually trading today, so there was a little bit of activity. Volume obviously very light on this Martin Luther King holiday. But let's jump in and take a look at the action. The Dow futures right now are trading at 19,784. They're down around 48 points. Now, taking a look at the options that are traded on the Dow futures, which go out 60 days. That's the closest expiration right now. That's the March expiration. They're pricing in basically that the Dow Jones could be in a 4.7% range, either up or down between now and the expiration of the March options on these futures. That's about a 933 point range, folks. So while that sounds large, if you take a look at the diamonds, if you don't have access to the Dow futures, take a look at the diamonds. The ticker symbol is DIA. That's the proxy for the Dow Jones 30, trading at 198.70. Now, they have weekly options, and they have options that are going to expire at the end of this week. Why do I look at the options? Because the options have what's called an implied forecast or implied volatility in it that basically the market makers utilize for forecasting their range in the stock. Right now, these options are pricing in a range for this $198.70 ETF of around 5.3% for the remainder of this week. That means that they're expecting that the underlying could be as high as 200, or it could be as low as 196 and some change. That's basically about $2. It's exactly $1.91, but I'm rounding up for math's sake. Now, critical levels that you're going to want to watch on the diamonds, which track the Dow Jones 30, 198.80. That's going to be a level that needs to be broken above and with some volume if the trend on the short term is going to continue to the upside. 193.45. That's a level that we're going to want to watch very closely. If there is any challenge to this level and it dips below that with volume, that could put the intermediate trend at risk. And then 183.84. Now, 183.84 is going to be that long-term support level. We want that held if we're going to see the overall bullish sentiment of the Dow Jones continue to the upside. Now, taking a look at the more tech-heavy Nasdaq. The Nasdaq was trading right around 50.25 today, down about 11 points. Now, they're pricing in a range this week of around 1.9% either up or down. That's about 98 points on this 5,000-point future. If you don't have access to the futures, again, take a look at the QQQs. That's the ETF that tracks the Nasdaq. Now, that wasn't trading today. It will be trading tomorrow morning. And the Qs went out on Friday at 123.16. They're pricing in over the next 4 days that it could have a 1% range. That's about $1.24 in this $123 ETF. The implied volatility is really inexpensive here. It's ranking almost at its 52-week lows at basically 3% on the IV rank. Now, critical levels that you're going to want to watch on this tech-centric ETF, the QQQs, is 120.87, 118, and 114. That's short, mid, and long-term levels, support levels that need to be held. Now, a break of 120 is not a huge abandoned ship type moment, but it is one where the short-term trend would be in question. 118 break there would basically break the mid to longer term bullish trend in the Qs, and we'd have to reevaluate our thesis on the Qs. Now, taking a look at the S&P futures, they're trading at 2,266, down about 650 today. Now, they had a shortened, very light volume, but the options are pricing in until the end of this week, a 40-point range. Basically about a 1.8% range, either up or down in this $2,266 future. Now, the spiders track the S&P 500. That's the ETF that you can utilize, trading at 227.05 as of Friday's close. Now they're pricing in a range of roughly around 0.7% this week, or around $1.62 in this ETF. Again, implied volatility is really low. And there's a lot going on this week. You have the inauguration, you have earnings cycle kicking off. So there's a lot of things that could go on and headlines that could happen. So keep an eye on this. Even though implied volatility is low, that's just telling you there's not a heightened expectation of big violent moves. Keep an eye on 225, 221, and 214 on the spiders. Now we want to take a look at these Russell 2000, those small cap, higher beta stocks that are really domestically centric here in the United States. The RUT was trading today at $1,370.30. It's roughly down about $3.80. This has been the leader both to the upside and the downside for the last couple of months. We're going to watch this one very closely. The range for this week is being priced in at $32 for this $1,370 future. That's about a 2.33% move that's being priced in just for the next 4 days. Now, IWM is the ETF that you can utilize to track the Russell 2000. It went out at 136.26. So if you look at the options that are expiring at the end of this week in IWM, they're pricing in a 1.5% range in this $136 ETF. That's a 2-point range, basically, for IWM. So you could see it at 138 or as low as 134. Implied volatility is very low. 13% is where the rank is. And the critical levels that you're going to want to watch. On the short-term trend, 136. On the midterm trend, 132. And on the long-term trend, 121. Any of those start to be challenged or broken, you're going to reassess your thesis based on that time frame. Now, there are going to be earnings tomorrow, and the earnings that are notable before the open tomorrow are going to be Bank of the OZRKs. Now, you say, why would I want to watch Bank of the OZRKs? Ticker symbol OZRK. Stock's trading at 53.46. It's because it's a regional bank. We want to start to get a pulse of how the regional banks are going to be faring with the new possible policies that are going to be put in place by the Trump administration, the fiscal stimulus packages, how's that going to impact local communities, borrowing standards, everything, the regs and standards and everything of that nature are going to come into question and be reevaluated. That's going to impact the banks. We've seen the large banks come out, good profits, decent guidance, few misses, Wells Fargo being the most notable, but they're still moving to the upside because interest rates are going to be moving up. How is that going to impact the smaller banks? OZRK is trading at 53.46. Right now, there's an expectation of earnings coming in at around 69 cents. The previous earnings was at 57, so there's a pretty noticeable uptick in the expectations. Those expectations are coming from Capital IQ, by the way. And the options right now over the next 4 days are pricing a 3.4% move over the next 4 days being priced into this event. So that's a $6.1% move in OZRK. That's a $3.25 move in this $53 stock. Now, another bigger institution, and this is more along the lines of institutional trading, is Morgan Stanley. Institutional trading and money management. Now, they don't have as diverse of a business acumen as something like a Bank of America or a JP Morgan Chase or a Wells Fargo, but Morgan Stanley is the behemoth as far as institutional investments. And MS is trading at 43.81. Right now, the expectation of earnings is coming in around 65 cents, and the previous was at 43 cents. Now, the options for the next 4 days are pricing in a 3.4% move in the stock going into this event. That's a $1.49 in this $43 stock. Now we want to take a look at United Health Insurance. So we've looked at some banks, we're looking at some financials, and now we're going to look at healthcare. And United Health, UNH, is trading at 161.80. It's been on a volatile tinge as of late. The options right now are pricing in around a 3.7% move going into this event tomorrow morning, or in other words, plus or minus $6 in this $161 underlying. Watch this one closely because there has been a lot of discussion on how the repeal of Obamacare and what's going to replace it. That's going to impact these stocks. Drug pricing going to impact these stocks. All of this stuff is going to start adding some more volatility to these spaces. So we're going to watch this one closely. But going into earnings tomorrow, expectation is right now about a 3.7% move. Previously, their earnings were at $1.40. Expectation is around $2.07. So there's a pretty big expectation of a pop. After the close, you have CSX. CSX is trading at 38.80. We talked a little bit about this at Tech Talk, so you can go back and take a look at this. Previously, they announced 48 cents last quarter. Their expectations are coming in maybe a penny better at 49 cents. The options right now are pricing in a range of around 4.5% for the remainder of this week. That's basically a $1.75 range going into this event. Finally, and the last one we want to take a look at is one of the e-brokers. And I said we're going to watch the e-brokers only because they have a little bit of a different business component to it than the traditional banks and anything that's trading related. And we're going to watch these names very closely because there could be cycling out of the traditional banks as we figure out all of the new policies. And these e-brokers, they could see a little bit of a pop. Which they've already have. Interactive Brokers, IBKR is going to be reporting tomorrow, trading at 38.78. Now, the previous quarter, they came out at 25 cents. Their estimates coming out of Capital IQ are right around 33 cents. So there's a pretty big consensus estimate that this is going to be a pop in Interactive Brokerage. The options are pricing in this $38 stock a range of around 4.5% going into the remainder of this week, which is about $1.73 either up or down. So a decent range in this $38 stock. All right, folks, we have set you up for the week. We've taken a look at the futures. They have been trading and they're trading right now. We've given you some ranges on the proxy ETFs just in case you don't have access to the futures. And we've given you 5 different names that you can keep an eye on both pre-market and post-market because they have earnings tomorrow. And now I've given you those ranges based on analysis of the charts and really the analysis of the options. So this is great transparency to kick your week off. Chew on this a little bit tonight and see if there's some opportunities out there. All right, folks, we'll be back on at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. We're going to start by looking at all the overnight action from Asia. Then we'll take a look at Europe. Then when we're online here in the U.S., we're going to take a look at the opening bell here, and then we'll kick off the remainder of the day with the remainder of our shows. So go back, check out our archives, and until then, have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow morning here at MarketStream.live. Take care.